Welcome to the Love Disciple podcast. I'm here today interviewing someone who is very important to me. This is Ziegler. So Aaron's bio is super technical. I'm definitely going to be reading this one. Aaron is a senior guide, a teacher, a certified healer, a life activation practitioner, Magus Hermeticus, aka a third step ritual master with the Modern Mystery School. As a master healer, Aaron specializes in advanced spiritual training and comprehensive healing modalities from the Hermetic lineage of King Solomon. He's studied with the Mystery School since 2006, and he offers many advanced healing series, including etheric surgery, programs for physical healing, healing from trauma, and holistic support for damage caused by addiction and substance abuse. So today's conversation with Aaron is going to be focused all on the Mystery School. So if you're curious to learn more, stay tuned at the end where Aaron will share a little bit about how you can connect and get tuned in.
Dynamite, I'm blowing up my mind. I wanna be free, I wanna be cool, I wanna be bad.
Welcome to today's episode. It is an absolute pleasure to have Aaron on the podcast. Aaron, would you mind giving us a brief introduction of who you are?
My name is Aaron. I teach with the Modern Mystery School. I've been involved for 18 years. I have the Modern Mystery School Texas here in Austin, Texas. And it's everything I do.
Yeah. So you're actually here to talk about something that a lot of our guests have mentioned on episodes, and that is the Modern Mystery School. I talk about it when I'm out in public, as I'm sure you do, and I get a lot of questions. So if you had to guess, what's the most common question that you get?
What is it?
What is the Mystery School?
What is a mystery school, I think, is the most common question. It's pretty simple. It's a lineage. It's like this person taught this person taught this person, and it goes back to King Solomon 3,000 years ago. He did some pretty fantastical things and was really a forward-thinking person. Mm-hmm. And he brought people together from all the tribes on the planet to study in his temple for 30 plus years, and they tried all the different magics and all. And some things worked on this tribe under a full moon on that land, on this mountain, but didn't work on everyone. So he kept things that worked on every single human, and then sent people back out. And from that, there were 7 mystery schools. And since that time, they've all been secret. Every now and then one is open for a period of time. The last time one was open was 1888 to 1932. It was called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It was in England. There's a lot of writers that have put out books talking about Hermetic tradition and all of that. And different magical practices. Now, books are great, but they're missing all the keys, so I don't necessarily recommend people just go run and get the book and read it, because you're gonna miss the thing that makes that magic work. It's great for the mind, it stimulates the mind, it makes you inquisitive, but it doesn't actually lead you to what you're really looking for, which is understanding yourself and knowing thyself. That's the fundamental thing. Now, this mystery school opened to the public in 1997, and it's been going since then, and it's now in 50 plus countries. I don't know the exact amount we've been in. We're all over the world.
Wow. I have so many questions. So you mentioned a Hermetic order. Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
So Hermes Trismegistus was about 8,000 years ago.
Okay.
And great teacher was holding this lineage. There is a book out called the Hermetica.
Oh yeah.
Which would, if we had a Bible, that would be one of them. And and it's not a book you just read straight through. It's a book you kind of like find a thing, and then we can talk about that passage, and where we could debate what we think it is. That's ultimately like Hermetics. It's not really finding the absolute what is true. It's like, oh, that's an interesting perspective, because through dialogue, we can actually look at things from a different angle. Like if I described, what does that candle look like, and you explained it, you see it from a different perspective than I do. And that's a really cool piece of understanding foundational hermetics. And then there's the 7 hermetic Hermetic principles, which are universal truths of understanding how everything kind of fits together, that we naturally practice. And even though the term hermetic, when you think about something hermetically sealed, like in a medical field, that's going to be totally pure. It's not exposed to outside air, so there's no germs or anything like that. And so it's a ray of creation from source and soft to us that is like light flowing in from God, essentially, to us that is the ray of purity. And it is for humans to live a good, strong, healthy life and understand yourself and how to relate to everything around you and each other in a very powerful way.
Right.
To teach each person how to live and find joy.
Yeah, so one of the things that you said that really interested me was the analogy of it being hermetically sealed. I think a lot of people, even people that we've talked to on this podcast, can see what happens when a tradition is not hermetically sealed. Other people can come in and rewrite things. Do you see any of that happening with people who come to you with problems with other religions, or like what has been your experience with helping people understand the value of a hermetic tradition?
So the value of the lineage is a lot. Like, I don't change anything because it's bigger than me. So, the time of Solomon, there were already mystery schools, and he closed some of them because they were not abiding to the hermetic tradition. They were adding things, they were making things up. And something that you find a lot in what I would call New Age, which is like there's a lot of people in the New Age and the New Age spiritual practice, and that's a lot of like, well, I'm getting a download, and I know this, and I know how to actually talk to a lot of different spiritual beings and have a lot of training around that, but I also wouldn't say that I'm channeling or I'm doing something or I'm, what makes me special. I'm no more special than anyone else. I've walked a particular path further than most people, but I'm still me. I'm still me, and I'm still free. I'm here to create my reality in my world. I'm here to be the center of my existence and not impinge on anybody else, infringe on anybody else's life. I'm not here to take away from anybody's choices. Now, the lineage itself is like these things have been taught and handed down from this person to this person to this person. We do initiations, and there is a whole process to shifting the energy of a human so that you can hold a higher frequency. And the first initiation aligns you with the will of God, because humans naturally go against the will of God. It's our nature. And aligning our will with the will of God changes how our energy flows in our body. But in the initiation itself, you also hold 10 times more light energy from the source than everybody else on the planet. And I know of no other way that occurs. Now, is there some secret tradition somewhere that might do it? Sure, probably, but I don't know of it. I know of the other 6 mystery schools that are secret, and you have to be invited to be part of those. And I've had friends over the years, like a friend of mine was invited into the Japanese mystery school when he was younger because he was part Japanese, and you have to be Japanese to be a part of the Japanese mystery school.
Exactly.
But he didn't want to live as a monk. He wanted to be in the world. He's no longer with us anymore. He's passed on, but he had these opportunities before, and he was in this mystery school for quite some time. He was one of my teachers early on. And so, this path is, getting back to your question, the lineage is these are things taught, and we don't change them, and they're taught in this way. Ultimately, for now, the mystery school's open for this time period because the energy is shifting on the planet. The whole purpose is to usher in what we call Shambhala, which is world peace.
Okay.
It's living in world peace. What if we lived in a world where it didn't matter what color anyone was, or who loved who, or how many guns people owned, or all the other hot button issues? What if we didn't care about borders? What if nobody starved? What if I'm not saying equalize the playing field, everybody makes the same amount of money. This isn't a utopia, but it is a place where it's like, well, what if my merit, I can still make a lot of money depending on my merit, but some people don't, what if you don't need lots of money to survive? You're not gonna starve if there's plenty of food and everything pays decently well. Like, some people don't aspire to be insanely wealthy. Some people just aspire to be happy, but one of my teachers says happiness is ghetto joy. and it's like, if you don't want to be sad, don't be happy, because you can't really have one without the other, and it's all learning how to find joy. And so, in this process of self-discovery, we can, and living our hermetic life, we can actually start to see what that is, because that's a state of consciousness. It's not an emotion, because happiness is an emotion. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people go through life, I'm sad, and we've all been depressed and had different periods where we're sad. Well, what if we actually just express that emotion and we let it go? I'm sad, okay, great, then I let it go. Now I'm not sad any longer because I've processed what I need to process. But generally we have an attachment to the idea of what something is.
Yes.
And when we're losing that thing, we're trying to hold on to it rather than just see it for what it is. It benefited our life for the time period that we had. You can think about any relationship you've ever had in your life, like actual dating relationship. There can be success in short-term relationships because no relationship actually fails. They'll teach you something. And what if we just met and walked away and did something else because we could, and we weren't holding on to our attachment to, why didn't this work out? Because we had a lot of programming, and we were programmed to think and act a very specific way, which is all part of the structure that we live in. We're brought up to get married, and have kids, and go to college, and be in debt. That should be a normal thing.
Yes.
And that happens, but how often do you get to choose it?
Right.
How often do you choose, I do actually want to be married. I choose children. Mostly kids are accidents. And that comes down to education and actually teaching people that's a normal process of human function. Sex is a normal process of human function. People can have it and have it responsibly without actually having children right away.
So what I'm gathering is that it gives you an ability to make a choice.
Yeah.
You're able to find a center from
Yes.
there. You can actually choose what you want to do instead of accepting the default.
Yeah, everything is about choice. Everything, you always have a choice. Sometimes they're not great choices because we've created a place in our life where we don't get to pick all the greatest things, but we always have a choice.
Right. So that's interesting. One thing that you mentioned as well earlier was a key. Okay, are you able to say a little bit about what a key could be, or why reading a book wouldn't exactly take you to down the same path as you?
Yeah, reading a book is going to give you some mental knowledge, but it's missing parts. So it's missing the things that make that magic work.
Intentionally. Okay.
So it was written in a way so that the people who wrote it or someone in the know could access that information, and they would have, it's like, an encyclopedia, where it's like, oh, okay, I'm reviewing this information, but here's the key that makes that magic work. And that's never done in the book. That's always given orally to a person in their aura. All mystery school teachings have to be done in person in someone's aura, because there's an energetic process from the teacher to the student.
Right.
It has nothing to do with all the words. I mean, it does to a degree, because it's allowing energy centers to open up, but it's also distracting the mind from all the energy things that are actually occurring. So, classes are not just cool information, because it is cool information,
Super cool.
but it is also a life-changing process energetically. It's a holy process of it's a holy alchemical process of changing the person from here to here.
That's awesome. I'm going to stop and take a quick commercial break, if you will. And then when we return, I want to hear a little bit more about classes and what people do at the mystery school.
Thanks as always for listening to the podcast. I want to take a moment to highlight a few things about today's guest, Erin. Erin is a senior guide, teacher, certified healer, life activation practitioner, and many other things that I can't even pronounce with the Modern Mystery School. His mission is to help people harness their inner power, and he offers a range of services designed to help elevate you, including the life activation. If you're looking to break free from limiting patterns and step into your true potential, Erin's unique approach can provide the guidance and support that you need. His sessions, the life activation, and all of his other healing sessions are tailored to meet you where you are and help you ascend to new heights in your personal and spiritual development. Erin's expertise, combined with the powerful teachings of the Modern Mystery School, ensure that you receive the highest quality of care and profound, lasting results. So if you're ready to take the next step on your spiritual path, visit themodernmysteryschooltexas.com and book your first session with him. You will transform your life with his wisdom and guidance.
All right, we're back, and where we left off, we were talking about classes. So classes are the way that I first engaged with the mystery school. Can you share a little bit about what the classes could be about, or what someone could learn?
Sure. We have a lot of classes.
Yeah.
And to the degree that, we travel worldwide sometimes to continue to take classes and continue our education.
Mm-hmm.
So, where do I want to start with it? I guess since I've already referenced it, I'll talk about Empower Thyself.
Okay, yes.
Which is the first initiation.
Mm.
And it's a 2-day class where we talk about a lot of things in this class. Like in there, we're really talking about understanding ourselves, like who we actually are from that perspective. So we're going to start asking a lot of questions. And to do that, we have to kind of understand where we come from. And so we'll go on kind of a creation story, like how did we get to being in this physical body? And what does that look like? And then living in the physical dimensions, and what does that look like? And then what happens when we die and done with this rental vehicle, and where do we actually go? What are the spiritual dimensions, and what's the point of that? Actually, how important is your soul, and how that is actually a key piece of our progression throughout the physical life. And in there we'll talk about God, and who is God and what is God, and understanding that we'll work with something called the hierarchy of light, which is like all the angels and archangels and masters of light, heaven in essence, and breaking that down so we can understand what is this archangel, what are they responsible for, and what does that look like?
Interesting.
And when we are done with this rental vehicle, we become part of that. We become part of what we call the brotherhood and sisterhood of light. And then there's a path of progression there. And then we get into there's ritual practices that we teach, things that you can do on a daily basis, like to clear your mind, to block out other people's stuff so you're not taking it on, to connect with the directions, and to live inside of good energy. There's a bunch of different pieces. We teach 6 different rituals in that class. We teach a meditation technique to learn how to talk to your higher self. Kind of like we're having a conversation, not just like, I think I'm getting a message. It's actually like we're getting into talking to this aspect of ourselves. That's the first day.
Day 1.
The second day we get into the mind and how it works, and the subconscious and the negative ego, and how all thought is acted upon, and how to start eliminating the subconscious. And we do senses exercises, and get into clairaudience, clairvoyance, clairsentience, and all the different spiritual senses. And then we work with something called the powers of the universe, and how to activate those and bring those into our life, and how that will affect our relationship to our spiritual senses as we work with those. And we get into Kabbalah and what Kabbalah is. And at the end of the second day, there is an initiation, which looks like a knighting ceremony. And you're initiated into the brotherhood and sisterhood of light. which is where you go when you die, and you become part of that, and the hierarchy of light moves through you into the world. And what that does is that shifts you from the will of humans to the will of God, and then you hold 10 times more light than everyone else. And it's really an amazing experience. And there's a lot of information in this class. And, you know, as someone who's been teaching this since 2008 and having initiated a lot of people, and, you know, and I've also progressed pretty far on the path, all the things I learn later are really in that class, but, you know, not on the surface in any way. It's like very contextual. Mm-hmm. So it's like, I understand like this thing I learned here is being taught in the class, but it's like layer, you know, all these layers deep. And it's so fascinating because it's ultimately the whole lineage is there. And that's kind of mind-blowing.
In the first class.
In the first class, but not on the surface in any way. But like you can feel like this thing that you learn the way layers energetically connected to like this part of the class that you're teaching.
Right.
And it's very fascinating how all of that fits together.
Mm-hmm.
Because that always showed me that it wasn't just somebody just made that up. Mm-hmm. You know, because like it just keeps fitting in these ways that are kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah. Everybody has their own version of like, oh, this is really real for me. And for me, it did happen at Empower Thyself.
Yeah.
When I intended, at the time, I was smoking marijuana on a daily basis. And when I intended to Empower Thyself for the first day, the energy felt so alive and almost buzzing and electric. Mm. And then I went home and I smoked marijuana, and I actually felt it take me out. Yeah. And it lowered my energy level. It lowered everything about me. And it was the first time I realized that you could get high without drugs. Yeah. And so many other things. And from then on, I realized that energy is real. And I had never thought of that before. I had always relied on drugs to...
Yeah, drugs are very low energy, actually.
Keep me high.
They actually don't take us to where we think they take us. You know, having grown up with all of those things and smoking pot with my parents growing up, and I had 3 grow houses at one point.
3 grow houses?
Yeah. I have a strange background, and you know, it just is. I mean, I've been sober for a long time. Mm-hmm. The whole time I've been in the mystery school, like this, we don't need it. You know, like actually it takes away from our connection to understanding ourself. It blocks us from the light. You know, at this point, like I feel connected to God and to Source in a way that I was always looking for with drugs. Mm. But the drugs would take me away from that. It doesn't actually like compare. Like, this is clean, there's no downtime, I'm not laid out, I don't need to keep using more. Oh. You know, like it's not like, oh, I have to go get high so I can connect again. No, I'm just connected. Mm. And so it's like plugging you into that energy all the time, not to mention the damage that it actually does to us. So, you know, I've done a lot of different drugs in my life, and I've had a drug problem at one point, and, you know, always seeking, because I could see through the veil, and so I was always like seeking more, but I, you know, when I found the mystery school, I was like, I want that. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't really want the drugs, but it was the only thing I found to take me somewhere. And, you know, whether it was psychedelics or staying awake for days at a time to like see through the veil, like all of these things led me to really wanting the mystery school. Mm-hmm. Now, I definitely needed to heal from the damage that I did to myself while using those things, and that's just the reality of it. So I can't recommend people do drugs, and now they actually have the opportunity to find a mystery school. Like when I was doing a lot of drugs, that was when the mystery school opened to the public, so finding it was really challenging. Mm. You know, like I initially found it in 2004. I went to an event that there was this activation that we now call galactic activation. And I went to this event that was being put on by some current friends, but I didn't know them back then. Mm-hmm. And it was right at my 30th birthday. Mm-hmm. And somebody I knew came to visit me, and she took me to this thing, and I went through it, and I immediately quit smoking pot, and I was just done. And it was so weird because they were talking about aliens and all sorts of weird things. And I was like, these people are crazy. But then they kept saying mystery school. I'm like, that sounds interesting, because I had heard the term, right? But really, people co-opt that term now.
Yes.
They're like, oh, I'm going to make a mystery school. You can't just make a mystery school. Like, these are things that are thousands of years old. Like, this isn't, like I've referenced New Age, this isn't New Age. You can't just download and think or read it in a book. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, to get to the highest initiations, like, you literally don't have a subconscious any longer. You show up and you are who you say you are. And that is a very different place than anybody I've ever met in the New Age. And it's in service to humanity, not in service to self. So the highest initiations, people are in service to humanity in a way that people don't really get. So anyway, that's a kind of a longer piece of a conversation, but understanding, it's like, so I found the mystery school, but it took me 2 years to actually find people to do Empower Thyself, because the internet kind of sucked back then.
Yes.
It did, and so like a friend of mine gave me a flyer for Empower Thyself, and it was a trifold pamphlet. It was purple. It had a hand-drawn woman with a sword on the front, and I didn't even read it. I just called her and said, I'm going to come to your class, because it was what I was looking for.
Right.
And I took everything I could after that. And I just happened, I was living in Seattle at the time, and there happened to be a lot of things happening in the area.
Yes.
And now most things are in Toronto, but it was just early on on the journey, and it took a lot of things in a short period of time, in a way that you can't any longer, and that's a good thing. You don't want to go as fast as I did, because that was uncomfortable. So shifting your energy that quickly is pretty uncomfortable. Now it's done in a way that is a little bit more sustainable for people, and there's a lot of tools along the way to receive a lot of different healings, and studying Kabbalah and a lot of different pieces to continue to help you progress.
Right. I think mystery school people were laughing a little bit to themselves when they said your first introduction was a galactic activation. We've done interviews, I think more than one, where the path of progression has been up on the wall. And it inspires, well, first of all, for those who haven't seen that yet, if you look at the path of progression, galactic activation is not the first thing that most people would take. Which is why we were laughing. But also, people see the path of progression and they wonder, like, what is this? Why is there a path? Like, what is the purpose, or what do you gain when you progress down the path?
Well, actually, the very first thing people do is a life activation.
A life activation?
Yeah, that's generally like you have to do it before Empower Thyself. You have to do it before most things, not everything, but most things. And that's like a one-on-one session that is done with a practitioner like yourself, like Saint actually does these things. and so with the life activation, that's turning on your physical and spiritual DNA. And essentially, that changes you. Like, things that don't really serve you leave, and things about purpose come in. And so you're moving towards your purpose, and it brings more hope into your life, and it allows you to have a forward motion. And so anytime people are like stuck, or they don't really know what's next, or something like that, it's a great thing for them to like shift where they are to get to where they want to go.
Right.
And that's like a prerequisite for most deeper pieces of the mystery school, initiation being one of them. Galactic activation is now required for ritual master.
Okay.
So, like, a lot of people are getting that into it. And I think you have to go to Healers Academy now to do it.
Okay.
So, which is the second initiation, where you learn how to do a life activation. So, and again, that's another 10 times the light. So, like, there's a bunch of initiations on this path, and all of it is progression, and all of it is a lot of energy and light flowing into us. But all of that is reflective in us, so we can see the things that we need to heal, so we can actually know ourselves more deeply. And at the beginning, Empower Thyself, the first initiation, is all in service to self. Whereas we go to Healers Academy, we start being in service to others, because we have to heal ourselves enough to be able to serve others. We have to fill our cup first so that we can help someone else. And that's just part of the journey. So yeah, typically in the mystery school, like everybody starts with the healer path, and there are 3 main initiations on that path. As I said, Empower Thyself, and then Healer's Academy is the second, and then eventually somebody can be a guide where you can teach Empower Thyself. And that's another 10 times the light. So it's 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, 10 times 100, 1,000 times from where we start, which is a lot. It's a lot. And there's a warrior path called Ritual Master, and there's no quantification of energy. It's just a shitload. And we, you know, it's where all the deeper teachings and deeper magic is taught, and it's really cool. I can't say much more about it, but it's really cool.
You can't tell us about it, but it's really cool.
No, it's the thing everybody actually wants, though.
Yeah, I feel that you're hinting something at me. I can feel it in the air.
Never, me?
When you look at the path of progression, it really doesn't have a definitive end, and you say that there's so many classes and all the classes are not on there.
There isn't a definitive end.
So what does that mean for the person who is at the top, or the people who are holding the lineage? Are they learning always as well?
Always. Yeah, like always. There's always learned process. You know, like that particular role is very different, you know, and most people are never going to experience what that role looks like. But, you know, that's working constantly with higher beings and, you know, having a direction for the mystery school to go. And that's what's been really cool, and some of the things that have been occurring, the direction as we're ushering in Shambhala, because like it's anchoring now.
Right.
Like there were periods where like the old paradigm ended and the new paradigm started, and Shambhala is anchoring, and you know we need to initiate a lot of people, because that affects the collective consciousness of humanity. Like through the amount of light that's flowing into each person, that affects the collective consciousness. And if we do that enough, everybody wakes up. You know, and that's kind of the whole reason the mystery school is open, you know, is to usher in this world peace. And so, you know, energetically it's happened, and it's kind of the whole reason that Solomon created, you know, put all of this together was for now. He was very forward thinking. And, you know, I know that's a lot, but another thing that's kind of a lot is, you know, we get to be alive during this time period. We get to actually like use these tools to assist humanity's growth, to be something more. And, you know, speaking to you as you know, as an individual step initiate, you know, like you were chosen by God to do this. And, you know, all you have to do is continue to say yes to it and move forward and bring that light to people to help them progress. And that's like a key part of understanding. It's like, oh my God, I get to do this. I get to be alive now, to actually share these tools with other people and watch them grow and change and pull them out of their shadow and their choices they've made to like walk away from the light, because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And not because we're afraid of the light, but sometimes we just don't believe in ourselves, or that we deserve to have good things, or we deserve to have light, and all of that's just programming from a young age.
Yeah.
You know, like all of our programming gets in the way of like what we see and what we believe about ourselves and who we can be and how we can grow and what we can actually have an impact in the world. And I think that it's important to actually change that impact and change that place of growth.
Right. Do you, is anchoring in Shambhala a part of your mission as the holder of the Modern Mystery School, Texas?
I mean, that's hard to answer. I mean, I can say yes, but honestly, like, I also want to, like, on a personal level, I want to grow and know myself in a deep way and build a life that feels good for me to live, and have people in my life that I love and want to cherish and build a world with. I think that, and I'm saying it that way because I think it's easy to lose ourselves in a mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to understand that we deserve to have all the things that we want while we're doing our mission, because that allows us to keep doing it, allows us to keep growing, allows us to keep moving forward and creating a world that we can all want to live.
Right.
You know, so yeah, and it's also like, how can I know myself on a deep level, and how can I usher in the things that support my mission? You know, and aligning that with somebody else who has their own personal piece of that mission. I think it's just too easy to forget about ourselves in the process.
Mm-hmm.
And I fundamentally, you know, wanted to say that because the very first thing we teach you is in Empower Thyself is like, it's about you. Like, you have to fill your cup.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm constantly giving, my cup isn't full. And if I need my cup full, it's because I need to have these certain things in my life. Now, the key is determining what those things are. Because like, we think we know we want this, we want this person, we want this thing, but we end up outgrowing all of that, and then we actually go towards who we really are.
Right.
You know, and that's a key understanding. It's like, we start one place and then we end up another. And who I was over here, and who I was when I started this path, I don't even recognize. I don't have a problem talking about that person, but that person, like, I don't recognize that person.
That's very fair. As we wrap, I do have two quick questions for you that I'm curious about. The first is, you made a statement in the middle that I think people will find some people will find controversial or triggering, and it was about how our mission is to anchor in Shambhala and to bring as much light and to initiate as many people as possible so that we can anchor in the new era in the collective consciousness. If someone hears that and they feel like, whoa, that's kind of crazy pants, or it feels maybe even, I know there's been articles written about the culty word, what would you say to that?
Well, you said a lot of things there. You know, I laugh being called a cult. I mean, the definition would really sit with any religion or any group or organization. You know? And the truth is you can quit anytime you want, and no one's forcing me to do anything.
Right.
You know, I joke, you know, because they say it's a sex cult, and I've been involved 18 years and I still haven't been invited to the orgy. So, you know, it's a joke because that doesn't exist, you know, and so, you know, here we are. I mean, honestly, it's given us a lot of publicity, and a lot more people have come into the mystery school because they heard about Miley Cyrus being in our cult. Right. You know, and like, I never met her or seen her, you know, at any class or thing I've ever been to. So, you know, I mean, I wish she was, you know, that would get the word out, but, you know, no, it's a terrible cult. In fact, there's places where your buttons are pushed to try to make you quit because you have to really want to be part of it. You really want to like do the thing to like help be part of the change.
Fair.
And that's like getting over pieces of yourself and aligning yourself with something bigger than yourself.
Very, very fair. The second question is about what you recommend. So throughout this process, I've had interviewees talk about a book that really helps them, and obviously the Mystery School has many readings involved, but is there something that you could recommend to somebody who's just starting out or wants to learn more that they could potentially gain from? I mean, a book or? Book.
A book?
A book.
Well, Sovereign Exist Miss Dave Lanyon wrote a book.
Yeah.
You Are Not Perfect Just the Way You Are. I highly recommend that.
Yeah.
It's Hermetic teachings, and there's a lot of pieces in there about understanding your relationship to pretty much everything. So I highly recommend that book.
Perfect. All right. Was there anything else that you want to share before we wrap?
I think everybody should, if you're remotely interested, have an experience, get a life activation. Contact this woman. and get a life activation, because you won't really know whether you believe it or not until you have some sort of experience, and that's the easiest way to have an experience.
Right.
You know, it's just have a one-on-one session, and you know, like it's always like you gotta prove it to yourself. You know, like one thing I always say to people in class is like, you don't have to believe anything I teach you.
Mm-hmm.
Take the tools I give you and prove it to yourself.
Yes.
Which is like have an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and tell me I'm wrong.
Right.
Because one, I've never had that happen, but I'm always open to like, tell me I'm wrong. Let's have a conversation about it. Because what is your perspective? Maybe I'll learn something. Boy, I learn in every class I ever do. I learn from people all the time. I'm not closed to learning from anyone else. That's just the way that you have to be to understand your relationship to the world and, you know, your place in it.
And where can people connect with you?
modernmysteryschooltx.com.
Right.
That's the website locally, and you know, email me at aaron@modernmysteryschooltx.com. I'm happy to have tea and chat.
Yes, tea. All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Sure.
All right.